Oh, there we are. There we are.
Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever part of the world you are in. Welcome to Geopolitics in Conflict
Live.
So we are so thrilled to be here once again. Hey, Ross, I got a hat.
I got one too, but I'm not wearing it today.
Anyway, it's not a big deal. So good to see you guys. We are so glad to be here. We want to thank those of you who've been logged in earlier. I was informed that some of you have been logged in earlier. So we appreciate you being here. So before we get into our discussions and all that stuff, there are a few announcements we need to make.
Okay.
So I'd like to go through that briefly, guys. Next week, we are not going to have live stream. There are some other commitments we are engaged in. So we will not be doing a live stream next week. So second thing is I wanted to mention to you about the course or courses we are working on, and we like to have your input. If you guys can just type in later on, not now, whenever you get a chance, if you can just type in, let us know what type of courses you will be interested in or you would like to learn about. I usually talk about the geopolitics stuff, or Russ also talks about a lot of stuff has to do with management, has to do with executives, has to do with business settings. So, but we like to have your input as well for what type of courses you will be interested in learning about, and we're going to structure all this. Third thing is we're going to be moving forward with our presentations, but those are only for the Patreon members. So if you are interested, consider joining the membership on a Patreon. I know I saw some comments how the Patreon work. Patreon is a fee membership based, depending again on what level, a comfortable level financially you are with. You can just decide on whatever level works best for you. And the other thing is, I have one more note here. There is we're gonna be releasing a video on Sunday. I don't want to spell up the surprise for you guys.
Oh, but is it a wonderful video?
You might want to truly check it out because it's an interview. One of the very, very interesting fella. I don't want to say his name. I don't want to mention his level on the global, on the world stage. But so just FYI, we will be releasing that video on Sunday. And like we always say to our viewers, we want to thank them for their support. We thank you for your support, guys. It means a lot to us. For our Patreon members, we appreciate your continued support. So,
well, what do you think, David? Should we talk about the top stories of the week?
Well, that would be nice to start with.
All right.
Just to get an idea. It's like I always call it a tour around the world, just to see where things are and share it with our viewers before.
Well, we're certainly going to take a tour around the world today.
I get excited about that kind of stuff.
Kabul asks Islamabad to target the Taliban.
Oh yes. This one just happened that the PM, Imran Khan, the head of the government in Pakistan, disclosed information that Ashraf Ghani, the guy from Afghanistan, asked him to use air power to target the Taliban. And Imran Khan said, no way, they can't do that. Strategically, they can't, because if they do that, if Pakistan does that, it'll become a target.
They're vulnerable. Yeah. We know it.
And they're not, because it's not their mess. The mess was created elsewhere. That's not the. Now, what Pakistan is concerned about is the flow of refugees.
With good reason. There are going to be a lot of them.
That's correct. But as far as requesting, interesting enough for us that Saudi Arabia has asked Pakistan to use its military in Yemen way back, and Pakistan turned them down, because to me it was like, are they looking at Pakistanis as expendables?
Yeah.
That to me it didn't make any sense. Why would I need to ask you to use your own military? It just doesn't make any sense. So Pakistan turned down the offer or the request from Afghanistan.
Life just keeps getting more and more interesting. Mr. Wang Yi, who happens to be the Chinese foreign minister,
yeah,
met with the Taliban delegation in China this week.
I know that's a big deal, and we're gonna do. By the way, we're gonna delve deeper into the show
Yeah.
for that one because there's a lot of stuff you need to know about that. But what I find very interesting about this, Ross, is that China is the only country in the world that provide that global platform for Taliban. Because if I don't know if you saw, I watched the ceremony or the event when the head of the Taliban delegations got to China. No, it was like a president of a country. That's the state. Even Wendy Sherman, the second person in U.S. State, the highest diplomat in State Department, did not get that welcome. So to me, it signals something that China is willing to work with Taliban, and Taliban also wanted to work with the Chinese because they see a golden opportunity, economic one. Because if we were to advise the companies in China doing business in Afghanistan, we're going to say, here is your deal, build infrastructure, because that's going to pave the way for you.
We know that Afghanistan is resource rich, infrastructure poor.
Oh, big time. And that is the reason why, because China signed an agreement with the Taliban as far as mineral rights.
Don't you love it?
So it's the vacuum that's been created by the US. China's filling it. Smart move.
Russia has an upcoming military exercise near the border of Afghanistan. Go figure that one.
Well, that's an interesting one because what I found interesting about that, Russia has moved about 25 fighter jet Su-25. Su-25, Sukhoi 25, they call them Su. They are very, very upscale level.
Mm-hmm.
They moved them from Kyrgyzstan near the border in Tajikistan, which is closer to Afghanistan. So this move has nothing to do with Russia. It has to do with Uzbekistan. Yeah. Okay. So to prevent any encroachment from either Taliban or any other elements into Uzbekistan, that's why the Russians moved their assets.
So it's a defensive move. It's a protective move.
That's all it is. So that was just a Russia sending a message. Hey, we're here and we can take care of business if we have to.
Very nice.
Because those Su-25s are high performing fighter jets. So.
Well, as you and I both know, we are carefully watching North and South Korea, almost on an everyday basis. And there is new communication going on after a year hiatus and blowing up the negotiation building. All of a sudden, Kim Jong-un is talking to South Korea.
Yeah, they opened up the line of communications again. There used to be about 5 lines of communications on the different levels, except for the intelligence one, of course.
Yeah.
But also has to do with North Korea's request, I think, when some defectors release some pamphlets or something like that. But there is one particular line of communication that always stays open between North Korea and South Korea. And that explains why Wendy Sherman went to South Korea. Because they're trying to see how things are going to move forward. Besides the Quad issue, it has to do also with the nuclear issue with North Korea. So it's good for the North Koreans to kind of communicate at least. To me, I look at it as a good sign. That will reduce a little bit tensions in that part of the world. But still, there are some fundamental issues that needs to be worked out. So that's for sure. For sure.
It is the last topic of the
week.
50 years after the withdrawal from Vietnam, the United States might return. In what way?
Oh, yes, I read.
It's a good one, isn't it?
Well, I read the article about it, and believe it or not, it was disclosed by the New York Times and the Washington Post. I didn't hear about it on U.S. media here. Not, so that's very concerning in a way, but also this has to do with circling China, But at the same time, do you think that the Vietnamese forgot what happened? When the Pentagon Papers were released, we all witnessed what happened, and I don't think so. Vietnamese or Vietnam as a whole, as a country, forgot what took place back in.
Well, as you know, I've recently interviewed several people from Vietnam, and they have not forgotten And they've also not forgotten the war they had with China.
That's correct. They did have some issues there. And I do not see how, after 20 years in Afghanistan, after another 20 years in Iraq, and what have we accomplished? All of a sudden, you want to move forces into Vietnam. It's, to me, it's much riskier in that part of the world than anywhere else.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know what the policy makers in the Pentagon were thinking. So that's that I find it very, very interesting.
So we'll watch this one closely.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it, and if we need to do a show on it, we'll do it. If that is something you guys want to know about, we'll be happy to delve deeper into it. So, all right, let us move into anything you want to add, Ross. Any comment? Anything you want to?
I just want to emphasize, please give us topics that you'd like us to do shows on.
Sure.
Or courses that you'd like us to create. We're in the process of doing that, and we really enjoy it. We're good at it, and people give us great feedback on it.
That's correct. And by the way, be on the lookout, guys, for a major website's going to be coming up in a few weeks. That will be top notch because our top producers working on it. And by the way, I'll take this opportunity to thank our team. I want you to guys know this is not us, It is a team behind the scenes that's managing all this, and without that team, there is no way we would be sitting here. So
for sure.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys that you give credit when credit is due, no matter what. So I can't thank our team for this because our success is part of their effort. Without them, there is no way.
That's right.
There is no way. So be on the lookout for a major website is going to be coming. Top-notch visual stuff, and you will like it. So, all right, let us talk today about our topic, which is
China in the Middle East.
Why China in the Middle East? What does it mean economically, strategically, geopolitically? How that just China's presence in the Middle East sends shockwaves on the global stage.
As well it should.
Yeah, for a host of reasons. And we're going to be doing a show about the recent visit of the Prime Minister, Mr. Wang Yi, to Syria, Egypt, and Algeria. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But what we're going to talk about today, Russ, is also we're going to sort of delve deeper a little bit into what does it mean. Then, like we always do, guys, we'll do 20-25 minutes and open up the floor for your questions. Please make sure to always put the word question so we know it is a question, so it makes it easier, and we can answer as many questions as possible. So, well, the first trip that I was aware of for the Chinese delegation to the Middle East back in March, in a matter of 6 days, the Chinese delegation went to 6 countries. And I have a list of those countries, including Turkey, Oman, Iran, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia. Well, what's interesting about this, the 2 countries, United Arab Emirates and Bahrain, China didn't care about what type of religion they have or their human rights issues or whatever that is. Right. Because Bahrain and United Arab Emirates, they do have prisoners that just because the academicians, whatever. I mean, there are some atrocities committed in United Arab Emirates and Bahrain, which the West doesn't talk much about. I'm aware of them. Yeah. I keep an eye on this because those are academicians that have been detained. And what I found interesting, when China went in, they didn't address those kind of shit. That's not their business. China went there for business purpose.
They're real good at staying directed this way. They don't get sidetracked by the internal workings of a country. They say, how can we have a win-win business situation?
And that's what they did with those countries. Because here is the thing, Ross. The main reason for the trip, not only because a geopolitical or a security vacuum has been created by the U.S. withdrawal from the Middle East, because the U.S. now has no choice but to shift its asset to Asia. I may add this in the wrong way. And what I mean by that is just for you guys to know, I'm referring to one key word here, and the key word is containment. Because the assumption in Washington that they're going to contain China, I just do not see that.
Good luck.
Good luck with that. This is not your small country you're going to contain.
And Mr. Wang Yi couldn't have been more clear about it. If you're really going to be in a relationship with us, America, you've got to stop this.
Exactly, like the 3 points he mentioned,
3 points,
and all that
yeah.
stuff. Yes, I remember that one. So the approach of China in the Middle East, as I said, because of the vacuum that's been created, but also the economic opportunities, and of specific into this, it has to do with the energy consumption.
Oh, and is this a big deal?
Yeah.
As we look at some of these statistics as to where the energy consumption worldwide is going.
Well, especially for China.
Especially for China.
We did argue before that China's consumption by 2030 will go to about 16 million barrels a day. As a matter of fact, by 2040, the estimation goes up to about 75%
of the oil consumption.
Oil consumption from the Middle East. That's going to have. Oh, actually, the whole consumption of China, 75%. So China will be compelled to ensure access to different resources. Remember the deal they had with Turkmenistan?
Oh, yeah.
Remember the deal they had with Iran?
Oh, yeah.
They have another deal with Iraq, another deal with United Arab Emirates, another deal with Saudi Arabia. And now you add to the mix Egypt and Algeria.
Wow.
Well, what's interesting about Algeria is an OPEC member.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
really?
Algeria
well,
is
we know they've got some significant resources.
They do. As a matter of fact,
they're kind of keeping it quiet.
No, well, because Algeria, it's not that advanced of a country, but they do have oil.
Yeah.
There is major oil, and they are an OPEC member. So to China is looking at it from the economic perspective. What's interesting about the trip back in March and the current trip is that all those countries have subscribed to BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative.
You got to hand it to the Chinese.
Yeah.
They have created business arrangements and cooperative ventures with virtually every country in the Middle East.
Yeah, because it's an economic opportunity.
Right.
And why not? When you have that economy growing that big, you're going to have to ensure access to resources. Energy, despite what you hear about this green energy and all that stuff, which is all good and all that. Still, the dependency on the oil, it's always there. I found it very interesting, just for you guys to know, and I'll share this with you, that here in the United States, we have the oil refineries in Houston. It's well known here because that's where our reserves of oil are. And those refineries are usually maintained by Saudi Arabia, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So when the United States asked Saudi Arabia to upgrade those refineries, Saudi said no. And they went ahead and built brand new refineries in China.
Oh, shocking.
A $10 billion project. So it tells you just right there that China's looking at it strategically and economically, of course, because I believe, and this is my personal opinion, that China's entrance or emergence in the Middle East is economically driven.
That's perfectly consistent.
Yeah. What's going to work to China's advantage is this. If China can be, and I believe it will be, can be that neutral player.
Yes.
A neutral that doesn't favor one over another. Well,
and doesn't criticize and doesn't condemn.
Well, look at them. They met with United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. Do you have any idea how much atrocities those two countries are committing?
I don't want to know.
Because they are now reported in the West.
Right.
I'm following up on it because I can read up on that language. I speak that language. So I'm able to read in that language and understand exactly what's going on. I mean, the atrocities are far beyond. And yet, China didn't care for that because when they sat down to talk about business. What you do in your own country, that's your prerogative. So who are we to come and dictate to you? This is how you do, this is what you do. So, and yeah, go ahead, Ras.
Well, what I was going to say is, and that fosters an ideal business background or backdrop. We're here to do business. We're not messing with anything else. And you can always trust we're going to stick to our own business, not yours.
Yeah, and this is also where this recent trip that just happened last week, basically for Syria, Egypt, and Algeria, that China wanted to cement that presence. And I think literally, if they play their card right, politically speaking, they could emerge as, because here's the thing. Arab countries now trusting China more than they do the United States.
That's not surprising at all.
Yeah, and look no further than the Arab-Israeli conflict.
I was just thinking of that.
Yeah.
China is offering to broker a deal.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, and I want to share this with you guys also. The Arab-Israeli conflict is so complicated, very, very complicated. I had the opportunity one day to talk to former Ambassador Danish Ross, who was the envoy of the U.S. back then, back in the 90s, to deal with. And he and I came to an agreement that, yeah, you can resolve that issue quickly. But this is not about just blaming one entity,
Right.
The issue is also on the Palestinian leadership, not the Palestinian people. There are some issues there that, some leaders in Palestine never wanted those issues to be resolved.
Clearly, they have some other agenda.
Exactly.
And they thrive on the conflict.
Exactly, and that's what it was. And I'm not going to shy away from saying this. That was the issue when Yasser Arafat passed away. The next day, it was a transfer of $10 million from a Swiss bank to Paris in France. Ooh. To his wife's account. So, I mean, come on.
Well, I'm not going to touch that one.
Oh, it's because it's kind of, I read about it, I checked it, I put it in my book, and the government said that shouldn't be a problem at all. So my point in this,
at the time, I remember reading about that.
Yeah, my point in this, Ross, it's not to criticize Palestine or whatever. My point in this is that if China plays its card right in trying at least to bring some sense of stability or some sense of peace, their perception within the Arab world will be very, very high. And this is where that opportunity that they have right now with the Taliban when it comes down to Afghanistan. I bet you this, Ross, if China just get involved in building basic infrastructure, I've been there and I saw what that country needs. I mean, they have nothing.
Right.
So if China can build just basic, you won't believe how the Afghani people, including the Taliban, whatever, they're going to be seeing China. And it is also to the benefit of China that Afghanistan will be stable.
For so many reasons, including access to the mineral resources.
Exactly. So this is where I see because usually when you think about Afghanistan or you think about Southeast Asia, certain Muslim countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, which they have the largest population, a lot of people think that a lot of Muslims are in the Middle East. They're not.
No, look further east.
Yeah, look in Malaysia and Indonesia. So to China, being involved in the Middle East, but also because there's a vacuum there created by the U.S., sort of ill-conceived foreign policies. I don't know how else to say it because that's what it is.
Yeah.
The U.S. foreign policy towards that part of the world has always been fragmented. But also, who do we have to thank for this before the U.S.? The Brits. They make a mess anywhere they go. We all remember the Balfour, the promise of Balfour that divided the Middle East. That's what carves out the Middle East the way it is. They did not understand the Ross. They did not understand the social makeup, the social fabric, the ethnicities. There are a lot of dynamics they didn't consider.
Oh, India, Pakistan, the 100 years of humiliation in China. This has one origin.
Yeah, and this is where so it's kind of make no mistake, guys. China is getting into some very muddy area.
Yeah,
they're gonna have to be very, very cautious and careful how they're gonna proceed. And I am sure, given the history in China, what they experienced. I mean, when you have a civilization of 5,000 years, you've seen it. You've seen a lot. So. Same with the Middle East. So this is where I see. I hope they are using history to their favor. The Chinese, that is. So it will be very, very good to do because that's going to pave the way for more. It will be almost like a transition in the Middle East from the era of
actually fragmentation.
Yes, to some sort of stability.
Yeah.
Security-wise.
And if we're reading this correctly, it's in the works. It's happening as we speak.
Well, it is when you look at all those countries signing deals. As a matter of fact, China and United Arab Emirates, they signed some very major economic deals. I do know one of them has to do with this the pandemic and the vaccines and all that.
Yeah, oh yeah.
China is willing to provide about 38 million vaccine jabs for the Middle East. That's, it's kind of, yes, they're talking about the diplomacy of the vaccine and so forth, but that's beside the point. But the idea of the economic incentives by which both countries looking at win-win. What makes it very interesting, especially in the case of United Arab Emirates, it has to do with what kind of form of monetary that they're going to transact in.
The digital one.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly. So I find it very, very interesting that United Arab Emirates agreed to conduct the transactions with China in the digital yuan. So, which means what? No need for SWIFT system. So
the US dollar is not going to be the base of that transaction.
No. And that's going to pave the way for others. That's going to pave the way for others because it's moving into that direction. As I said, Saudi Arabia built a refinery, brand new refinery in China. Iran, of course, has a $400 billion. Interesting enough is that China has only that deal with Iran, but not with all of them. Well, also because Iran is no small market. So.
It's just so amazing to me that this is sort of like a new logic, that peace fosters good business, and good business fosters peace
and stability.
And stability.
Yeah.
And the Chinese got it figured out.
I think so. And this is one thing the West does not understand. I truly believe they don't understand it.
20 years in Afghanistan and the infrastructure is still, the 5th century or something. I mean, it's just atrocious.
Yeah. So this is why we wanted to talk today about this one, because I do see, as one whose academic background really focuses on the Middle East, I do see major changes coming down the pipe if China plays its card right. So anything to add, Ross, before
I'd say it's time for questions.
All right, let's go for questions. And please, excuse me, as we always say, if you will be kind and just put the word question so we know that's what it is. All right. We got a sticker here from Heyman. Thank you so much for that. That's the stickers, of course, as you guys know, will have to take priority here. All right, here's the question. Thank you, Hey, for being here. We truly appreciate you being here. Can an empire be sustained by middlemaning the global economy at gunpoint and propaganda?
Well, I think there's a one-word answer for that. Okay. And we're seeing it. The answer is
no. Yeah, I see the logic of your argument, and you're absolutely correct. No, it can't. It can't, because we're seeing it right now in the Middle East. As an area I'm very familiar with, I'm seeing that shift is already happening, and China is stepping in because of the economic incentives, not because they're pointing their guns at the Middle Eastern.
It's also doing it that way is so expensive.
It is, because
you take a look at the U.S. military budget.
Yeah.
What is it? Bigger than the top 10 other nations in the world?
$758 billion.
And then you also take a look at what are you actually inspiring in the local populations that you're bullying around militarily? Opposition.
And
it's not good business.
No, it's not. I mean, you look at just the cost we spent in Iraq.
What? I don't know. How many trillion was that?
Well, the government's saying one figure, and the reality or the truth saying $6.5
trillion.
Yeah. So it's kind of that's
and it didn't work.
It did not. What have we gained in Afghanistan and Iraq?
A deficit.
Yeah, that's all. Thank you for that question. Next question. Rex, thank you for being here and good to see you. Question: on the long term, what do you think the economical situation of Middle East in the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh, great question.
That is a good question. That one is a geopolitical question, because that's usually where now, as we speak, a majority of geopolitical analysts are thinking, what does it mean for China to be in the Middle East, and what kind of change we're going to see on the geopolitical landscape? And what I mean by that, and this is my personal analysis and interpretation because I don't belong to any think tank. So I don't speak on behalf of anybody. I speak on behalf of myself. What I mean by that, Astra, is what kind of alliances is going to reemerge? Are we going to see a shift of alliances? For example, are we going to see, for example, Saudi Arabia shifting away from the US towards China? Are we going to see, for example, United Arab Emirates going more towards China than the United States? Are we going to see Bahrain reconsidering? Egypt? This is what I mean by that geopolitical shift. And yes, you will see this within the next decade or so. It will happen because the problem we have with the American system is that we lost credibility.
With good reason.
Yeah.
But American government deals can't be believed.
Yeah. So there is that trust deficits right now in the Middle East. And China stepping in to fill not only the vacuum, but also to provide economics and all that. That's why I said at the beginning, the trust in China is going up in the Arab world. So that's usually, so it will be a change coming up to the geopolitical landscape. Next question. Wamao, good to see you here, and thank you for being here. So the question, how much influence do you think China and Russia has over Israel? Russia just warned Israel from bombing Syria after Wang Yi promised help to rebuild the infrastructure of Syria. Yes, I'm aware of that. And they will have Russians, usually Russia and China, but also Russia and Israel, but also Israel and China. They all have some good relationships, if you will. Mainly, the good one that I'm very familiar with is between Israel and China. Believe it or not, Israel does share military technology with China. I know you won't hear much. You won't hear much about this because it doesn't get reported. And usually we frown upon Israel when they do that because there are certain technologies that. And Israel is kind of like, sure, we'll do it.
This is a very serious topic, but
it is. We laughing
when you hear about it. You go, can this be real?
Real,
and it is real.
Yeah. We're laughing not because it's funny, but we're laughing because of how in geopolitics you don't know because it's only driven by interests, strategic interests. So, and yes, if Russia warned Israel. Take my word for it. Israel will follow the sort of the order, if you will, unless they want to challenge that, which will not be pretty.
No,
because China's gonna rebuild Syria, which means they're gonna have to protect their interests. And I am sure it will be behind closed doors between Israel and China as to not to target areas where China is building that infrastructure. Good question. Next question. Michael Fu, thank you for being here, Michael. Question, what kind of difference now it makes that China is more actively involved in the Palestinian issue? What strategy is the Israelis taking with the Chinese involvement?
Oh, another really outstanding
Very
question.
outstanding question. And this is, again, and I am not saying this, guys, to make you feel good because I don't do that.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, that's not me. I don't sugarcoat things. This is the kind of viewers we have, and this is where I get a little bit upset when somebody gets off the rail, and just because I feel as an insult to our viewers because of the intellectual level. The questions display that.
Yeah, really.
And I intend to defend that at any cost. So we truly appreciate that one. It's a very that depends again how far China will be capable in bringing both parties at least to the negotiating table.
What we know is there's enormous complexity here.
It is.
And the Chinese have the patience to foster this for maybe even a decade. We saw that with the 7-year negotiation with investment from Europe.
The European
that was 7 years.
That's correct. China has an advantage.
They're doing business with both?
With both. That's correct. But also what I was going to say, Ross, is that they're going to be neutral.
Oh, absolutely right.
Neutrality.
Absolutely right. Neutrality
is the key to this. So if China can walk that road or that path, being neutral, doesn't favor one over the other, it will be a great success. And if they resolve the Arab-Israeli conflict, which I do not foresee, I'll be straightforward about it because the complexity is obvious, but hypothetically, if they succeed in doing that, that's it. They'll sit on the top of the global stage. That's how I look at it. So
quite frankly, if they're able to pull that one off, they should sit at the top.
Well, the success in itself is just if they bring both parties to sit down at a negotiating table. Now they can't even do that. The US cannot do it.
With good reason.
Yeah, because they don't trust the US. So that's what it will be. Next question. Beryakov. You know Beryakov,
yeah,
right?
I do.
Yeah, thank you for being here, Beryakov. Question. Pentagon pulls the US Patriot and THAAD missile batteries and US troops out of Saudi Arabia, Iraq, United Arab Emirates, and Jordan. What does this mean geopolitically in the Middle East and sphere of influence shift? Yes, I was aware of those when the United States decided to withdraw the batteries in Saudi Arabia, the ones that I'm familiar with a lot in Saudi Arabia. That tells you right there, because the United States will not be in a position to manage two fronts, the Middle East and Asia. They just can't. Well, it's not about resources here. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's about understanding the complexities of both two different regions. Asia has its own intricacies and so forth. Middle East is a volatile state, has always been the center of competition for major powers over its resources. So the United States has to evaluate which one is which.
And they set the priority as Far East.
Far East. But here is the thing that was not disclosed. You know what it is, Ross?
No.
You want to know?
Yeah, I do, actually.
That has to do with Russia's S-400 missile systems in the Middle East. Those are far advanced, and the Patriot they can't do anything against those.
Okay. So the defense system is useless.
Exactly. Yeah, let me say that. Yeah, sometimes you come across reading Saudi Arabia was able to shut down some missiles from the Houthis. That's nonsense. Yeah, it's nonsense, because there've been some missiles that the Patriot system couldn't defend against. So, but Russia, because Russia has positioned already the S-400 systems in Syria.
Mm-hmm.
Turkey purchased S-400 systems. Iran is about to purchase those, and now Algeria purchasing that. And I won't be surprised if Egypt will do that. So you can just see.
Oh, you talk about a change in the Middle
exactly.
East. Oh, the shift is. It's right in front of you, and it's massive.
It is, and it kind of we can play politics with the reality. It's reality that is happening. The shift is happening before our own eyes.
Right.
So that is the reason why they took them out, because they won't be able to sustain what has been changed. Next question, Jack Robert. Hey, I like the screen image, the Godfather.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Jack, and thank you for being here. Lebanon, Syria have fallen in Egypt next. Lebanon, Syria have fallen. Is Egypt next? Don't count Lebanon yet. There is behind closed doors conversation right now between Michel Aoun, the president of Lebanon, and Miqati. Miqati is the new head who's been appointed for the prime ministership to form a government. They are working their ways to figure it out. So Aoun, yes, is going into that direction because of the inflation.
Yeah.
The currency is dropping so low.
Like a rock. Yeah.
There are some economic issues in Lebanon. And always, if I am to, guys, share one thing with you, is always remember this. Usually Lebanon reflects the tensions in the Middle East. That's how always been in the center. This is why they always say, if you want a peace in the Middle East, make sure you include Syria. Well, why Syria? Because when you think of Lebanon, you have to think of Syria.
Okay.
So it's very complicated. That has to do with ethnicities and dynamics and so forth. But yeah, Egypt could be next, possibly. Now that, but I don't see it happening soon, because China now has stepped in. And what they signed, the agreements they signed, those are for economic purposes. Egypt's problem is that the military controls the economic resources. And the $2 billion we give, our tax money, by the way, we give every year, it does not go to the Egyptian people. It goes to the military institution. When Hosni Mubarak died, you know, they found few billions of dollars in his Swiss account. Yeah, I'll say it, because that's our tax money.
Yeah.
I have no problem with helping others, as long as the money gets to them. If you want to help somebody, why not? We all need help somehow. But when you get those leaders taking the money from our taxpayers' money, we got problems here at home. You start to see homeless people sleeping in the street.
Every major city in the United States has the problem.
It's ridiculous.
In every place we've been in the last year, we've seen tent cities.
Yeah, richest nation on earth. And yet you start to see in poverty here is going up. And people living paycheck to paycheck. Some people are wondering what they're going to have for dinner. We shouldn't be thinking in those. And yet our taxpayers' money is going to leaders in Egypt and all that. Who cares about that?
Right.
So I don't see Egypt going that route yet, but it will eventually if they don't get their act together. So next question. Venom. Oh, I like that. That's interesting. Man. Venom. Good to be here. And thank you for joining us. Question. How is the Taliban in talks with Russia? And what will is the impact to China? What will it be the impact to China? It will be no impact. I don't see any. What Russia wants to ensure that there will be no separatists within Russian territory from the Islamist fundamentalists that they get support from the Taliban. That's basically what it is. China will have the same concerns. But I don't see the impact of the talk between Taliban and Russia that will have on China. China's going to get in there because of the investments it made. Remember, they signed a lease for mining the...
was it lithium? What was it?
Lithium, copper, natural resources, all that stuff.
Yeah.
They signed the oil also.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they do have a lot. One estimates I read, Ross, that there's up to about $1 trillion worth of natural resources in Afghanistan. Underground.
Well, the Chinese are going to find out.
Plus, it's in proximity, so I don't see any impact. Oh, hey, man. Once again, thank you so much for that's a sticker.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, man, thank you so much. We truly appreciate it, man. Question. It took the British a few centuries to acknowledge the Pax Americana, and it came unwillingly after World War II. Will the Americans allow the world to move on?
I'd say they don't have a choice. It's already happening.
Whether we like it or not.
Whether the United States government likes it or not, it's happening. And we're watching it on a day-by-day basis as not only China, but lots of other places are really coming of age.
Yeah, that's how I see it too, Ross. I mean, yes, the Brits didn't have a sort of a clean record, if you will, historically speaking. Look, I always look at the Middle East as a reference point. You know, I also look at Latin America as a reference point for the United States.
Yeah.
You know, that's usually how I look at it. Yeah. No, it is happening, whether we like it or not, that geopolitical shift. And personally, I speak for myself again. I've been writing about it for the last 7-8 years. Of course, I won't use the term radical, but kind of like, oh, no, that can't be, David. There is no, they didn't want to believe. Personally, what I saw coming, that shift is happening. And as I said again, whether we like it or not, the world's going to have to move on. So the question is going to become, for us, how we're going to deal with that change.
Right.
And that is a big question for us here in the US that we're not even asking yet, because we are assuming that we're going to always stay at the pecking order that we've always been on global.
You know, you take a look at the world leaders, Russia, China, and lots of other places. And what they're saying is, let's get together and talk about what the real issues for planet Earth are and the human population.
Yeah.
Forget this squabbling. This is a fait accompli. This is already happening. Mm-hmm. And they're willing to talk to each other, but there is a country that's shockingly lacking in the conversation. Guess what that country is?
Which one? Ours.
United States.
United States, yeah. Well, this is where that idea of Why not sit down with the Chinese and talk?
Yeah.
Talk on an equal footing. You don't come in as a superior as I am. No, you don't need that. No need for that attitude.
Putin and Xi couldn't be more clear about, we're not going to take the fact that you come in thinking you're better than us.
Yeah.
How about respect? How about responsibility? And how about we really talk as equals, all sharing the planet?
Yeah, and resolve the issues.
And make some major impacts on real problems that we've got.
Yeah, and we all can benefit from it.
Exactly.
That's what I see. That's what I see it going. Next question, Alex Chan. Good to see you, Alex, and thank you for being here. What about Turkey-China relations? Will Turkey still provide a base for Eastern Turkestan, which is the terror threat to Xinjiang? No, I don't see that happening, because Turkey will not get into that, because Turkey now has other priorities, economic, that deals with the Mediterranean, especially with the natural gas. They are focusing on an economic aspect. They're not going to worry much about that one. Next question, Nabil Mal. Good to be. Thank you for being here, Nabil. Question: who do you think is the emerging leader of Islamic region, considering decline in Saudi Arabia's influence, and what are the implications of this with Arab-Israeli relations?
Yeah. Are you going to tackle that one?
Yeah, you might want to read my book that I wrote about Saudi Arabia. It's called the Beneath the Veil, the Fall of the House of Saud.
By the way, it's really well written. I know he wrote it, but it doesn't matter, because I read the book, and it's used on university campuses for foreign relations, and it's used by the governments. I mean, it's understandable and very readable.
Yeah, if you get a chance to read it, because I detail in it some information that is not coming out to the surface, basically. Well, the short answer is Saudi Arabia has never been in a leadership to begin with. What Saudi Arabia has is claiming, because of the two holy sites, Mecca and Medina, exist in Saudi Arabia, that gives them a claim over the Arab world, over the Islamic world. Most of the Islamic world does not care for Saudi Arabia, let alone what's happening with the current prince, the MBS, which is a total nightmare. I mean, you look at the unemployment in Saudi Arabia is going up. There are certain serious issues in Saudi Arabia that's going on. So I don't see them as a leader. Who's going to take the lead for that will be probably, if I have to guess, will be Turkey. But Turkey, those are not after leadership, if you will. They are after economic opportunities. Muslims, there's a saying in the Arab world and the Muslim world, and I'm going to translate it for you. It says that Arabs agree not to agree. No. They will never agree on one person having the leadership over them. That's just how it works. There are those who argue that Iran's going to want to take over the Muslim world. That's nonsense, because they are about 1.2 billion Sunnis. In Iran has about 178 million Shiites. Just mathematically doesn't make any sense. So the only country I see so far is Turkey, no more, no less. Next question. Ariel, here he is. I was wondering where Ariel was.
Okay.
He always shows up here. Thank you for being here. Question. Should it be better for China to decrease its dependency on fossil fuel and also helping the Middle East with that in part? You know where I'm getting at. I see what you mean.
Well, they certainly are going after other energy sources. I mean, the wind farms that we thought were missile silos.
Yeah, well, that's what they said. Yeah, and that was the reason why we did that show, to demonstrate that just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
And they're really looking to milk the sun from space stations, sending power down to Earth and particular receiving stations.
Yeah.
These guys are really on the front edge of making power available that's non-fossil fuel, but they still need the fossil fuel for the time being.
Exactly. Well, you think about the energy in the Middle East, especially oil.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think this country is going to give that up? Because they don't have any other means by which to sort of develop their economies. Their economies depends on oil. Take the oil out, they'll shut down. we'll go to the example of Saudi Arabia. What does Saudi Arabia produce?
Nothing.
Nothing. So take the oil out, and that's it. If it weren't for oil, we won't be hearing about Saudi Arabia at all.
Right.
That's a reality. So it's oil will always be there. Energy consumptions will always be there. Yes, there are the consumptions and so forth. China also is going to have to think in terms of to ensure that its economy is fueled accordingly and the growth keeps sustaining with the growth of population in that country as well. So that I just don't, based on the latter part of the question, the US also is not gonna want to let that go just like this. I'm sure it will be behind closed doors tactics, shall we say. That's going to undermine.
It's a nice way to talk about it.
Yes. Yeah. Next question. Kev, ZT, good to see you. First time I see you. If you're first time here, welcome, and we're so glad you joined us here. The question is, if and when the digital yuan does take off, how likely will it be adopted in the Western mainstream business environment, and through what means?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah,
we've taken a real deep look at this one and keep up with it. It's part of the situation is that the dollar is still very well entrenched.
That's correct. Even though I disagree with our guest last time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't agree with that notion that the dollar is going to remain strong.
Oh,
forever.
I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
And from what we can tell, China isn't really looking to make the yuan the global standard.
They don't. What the China will hope to achieve, and I'm speculating at this point, but I do see the signs into that direction. What China wants is that all the transactions, especially when it comes down to BRI completed,
right,
will be conducted in the Chinese yuan. This way, it will avoid the SWIFT altogether.
Also, it makes them immune to sanctions.
Oh, the sanctions will become irrelevant.
Yeah.
So, but I don't see China advocating for the global reserve because it comes with a price.
Oh, does it ever?
Yeah, it has a status and all that, but there is also a price attached to it. So basically, what I see is in the transactions. As a matter of fact, China already, as we said, came to an agreement with the United Arab Emirates to use digital yuan. Certain oil transactions with Iran are conducted in yuan. Certain oil that China purchased from Saudi Arabia are paid in yuan, not all of them in a dollar.
Yeah.
Which doesn't. Pakistan and China transactions, some of it, not all, are done in the digital yuan. So you can just see the ruble, Russia and China. So it's going that direction.
Yeah.
And eventually, down probably in the next decade or so, we might see a complete change to how those transactions will be conducted. So it will happen eventually. Next question. Boone, here he is. Good to see you, Boone. That's one of our Patreon members. Good to see you. Question. Do you know what is the status of BRI in the Middle East region? Is there any train track already between China and the region? Yes, there's one between, I believe, London and China. There's a conversation about the Winwan. Yes, believe it or not, there's a conversation on that. As to the Middle East in itself, the way I see it, if there is any connection, it will be to China. And I'm gonna post a map for you guys just to see with the arrows if I can post it, because it's the digital stuff, whatever. But anyway, the map shows Egypt here in the middle, with an arrow goes to the Middle East, okay? An arrow goes to China, an arrow goes to Turkey.
Oh, interesting.
So with all of them connected to China. And what all those countries have in common? They are part of the BRI. So yeah, Middle East is going to play a major role. And this is why China went ahead with the Turkmenistan.
Yep.
Because it saves the route for China to go all the way around South China Sea, Indian Ocean and all that. It cuts across through. This is why Afghanistan plays a role into this. This is why Iran plays a role. Pakistan plays a role. All this is going to pave the way for Iran to cut through directly to the Middle East. So I don't see it happening that way. So All right, one more question here because we have to go do some recording for next week, guys. Let me see. One last question. Village, good to see you. I won't pronounce the last one.
No.
Village, I call you Village. That's a good one. Good to see you here. The question is, how do you see the U.S. framing U.S.-China conflict? Okay, how do you see the U.S. framing U.S.-China conflict as democracy versus autocracy will affect countries' alignment, especially when a lot of Asian countries are not democracies?
They're framing it wrong to begin with.
Yeah, that's true, Russ.
Yeah.
We're framing it wrong.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just the idea of, yes, most countries in Asia are not democracies, but at the same time, why do we care?
It's not our business. It's their business. It's their country.
Yeah, they can manage the country any way they want. China's looking at it from that perspective. The U.S. thinking about it as democracy. Well, democracy. Let's fix our own issues first. As I always believe, foreign policy starts at home. I mean, can you imagine? You go to your friend's house, for example, and you tell your friend, "Hey, you need to fix this in your house and this and that," when your own house is a mess. That's the same approach. We can't be dictating how other countries behave or conduct their foreign policy or conduct their affairs when we are not even taking care of our own.
You're looking to set the stage for a good relationship, either business or otherwise, and you don't go in blaming the other people for their problems.
Yeah.
It just makes no sense at all. And here it is: the United States is very busy pointing the finger, when here at home we have almost identical problems.
That's correct.
And we're having a real hard time figuring them out.
Yeah, because we're not willing to sit down and really talk honestly about this one. So yes, it will always be, of course, approach from that frame of autocracy and this and that against democracy and so forth. But that's an average Joe here in America. He or she cares about, am I able to eat dinner tonight or not? That is the key question.
When the majority of the American population lives paycheck to paycheck with no savings at all, it tells you the condition of the country.
Yeah, that's where the issue is. So that's usually how we're going to frame it. So, well, we're going to end it right here, guys. Once again, we take the opportunity on behalf of the entire team, to thank you for some of you truly been up early. I was informed that they've been up early, logged in, literally. That means a lot to us. And I want you guys to know on behalf of the entire team, we don't take it for granted.
We appreciate it very much.
Your support means a lot to us, and we are growing. One thing I need to remind you of, guys, please, on Sunday, make sure to check out that video. It is a great, insightful interview you will not get anywhere else. And I mean it. Not just because it's on our platform, but I mean it. Just make sure you take a look at it. Once again, we shall see you in 2 weeks. We're not going to be here next week. And I hope you guys stay safe. Until next time. And as always,
stay informed.
Till next time.